What's up, Klamath Falls? This is Dave.
Hey, what's up, Klamath Falls? This is Mike. How's everybody doing out there today? We we have a special guest joining us remotely today. It's a first, and welcome Kristy Gerlett to the show.
What's up, Klamath Falls? I just really wanted to say that.
Well, thank you for joining us, Kristy. It's been a little bit of a learning process for us to get this remote stuff worked out, but appreciate your patience and happy to have you on the show.
Man, thanks so much for inviting me. I just say I posted about it before on Facebook. Your studio is awesome.
Well,
I
thank you.
truly wish I was there. All the cool stuff on the wall, and then is the bar just like full of whiskey? Is that what you have in the corner?
For the most part, yeah, yeah. It's just, there's some stressful days out here.
Yes, I can agree.
So, so anyway, I reached out to Kristy. I saw her story on Facebook, and I couldn't leave it alone. There's just some bad things have happened to her that were completely unnecessary. And the first was the loss of her mom, and I'm very sorry about that. And I'm even
Yeah.
more sorry that you're going through all that you are since that happened. And so maybe for the information of the crowd, um, the viewers, if you want to give them a little background with, your history with Klamath County or your mom's and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, so my mom and my grandmother moved to Klamath Falls in about 2009, and they had a beautiful, little ranch there with a main house and guest house and a riding arena, and it was very lush and just beautiful. And my mom was living with me in Ohio. Of course, she still had the property in Klamath Falls when she passed away, and obviously it was an unexpected situation, and it was very hard. And I thought that February 9th would be one of the worst days of my life, and it still is. But all of this stuff afterwards, I mean, my life is just very different from before February 9th, 2023, to what it has become now, um, because of all of the legal legal things. And I have to tell you, I didn't realize that even after someone dies, they can be a victim of a crime. But
Right.
I know that now.
Well, now, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like it started with the forging of a will.
Yes, so my mom passed away in obviously February of 2023, and there had been comings of a 2018 will, I'll say that. And then all of a sudden, I get an email in April saying that there was this will that my mom made in 2022 when she was obviously living with me here in Ohio. And in that will, there's a lot of things in that will, but one of the things in the will was that I was disinherited and that somebody else received 80% of my mother's estimated $2 million estate that wasn't family. And another individual is the one that submitted it. And so as I've said before, I didn't have any proof at the time that it was a fake will. I just knew that my mom would have never disinherited me or not left virtually anything to her grandson. My mom didn't think she'd be a grandma. She was very excited about my nephew being born, Lucas, and I just knew it wasn't true. And then as I started to look into things more, for example, the day that it was alleged that my mom had signed it, I knew, again, no proof. I just knew from talking to other relatives that my mom couldn't even have been in Klamath County that specific day. And then, of course, that was all verified as we got more evidence that my mom wasn't even in town that day.
Okay, okay. And so,
So these are renters at your mom's place that somehow acquired this place. That
Yeah, so they were family friends of my mom, and they were living on the ranch for some time. My mom had moved to the East Coast where I was going to school, and my dad was living, and then she went to Washington, and she would go back and forth and visit the ranch. I didn't have a relationship with these individuals during, my mom's time here in Ohio, and when she had passed away, it wasn't, they weren't involved in my world, but clearly they have become now.
But probably not in a good way. So, so you discover that there was a forgery on the will, and then you got some credit card invoices. It seems like that maybe had charges that were after she was passed.
Yeah, so the very first thing I did was get a lawyer because we had to, find out, it was this a valid will, was this not? And my legal team contacted the notary and a witness. The other witness on the fake will, to our knowledge, doesn't exist. It's just a made up name.
Okay.
So the legal team was able to verify that this wasn't real. And then, of course, I got a handwriting expert to do analysis, and he was able to locate the exact document that my mother's signature was pulled from, which, I mean, we were very lucky to be able to find that information. And so, of course, then we had to go to court and present the evidence, and the fake will was thrown out, and then the executor of the fake will was also removed. As time continued to progress, other pieces of information came. So we found out in August of 2023, while this fake will was still in play, that the one of the individuals held an estate sale. The problem with that is that person knew at the time of the estate sale that we had already proven the invalidity of the will, and they still conducted it. I didn't know about the estate sale until about a week later. I received a text message from my cousin, which was like a screenshot of the post on Facebook. And honestly, that was one of the worst days for me because I just thought in my head that if residents of Klamath County knew that this should never have happened, they didn't know.
Right.
That's one of the thoughts I had when I looked at the photos is, oh my gosh, these residents of Klamath County don't know. And to this day, I don't know what was sold, what wasn't sold, um, how much money was earned. That's still under investigation.
Well, it seems like nobody in Klamath wanted to really share the story either. You had to go to Portland in order to get any kind of media coverage for it.
Yeah, so I did. There was some Newsbreak articles. I've done uh, YouTube, but as far as Oregon, yes, the first media was the ABC affiliate out of Portland, and they worked on this for weeks. They're an investigative. There's an investigative reporter there, an investigative team, and obviously there's a lot of people, and everyone has their own side to the story. And so their report aired, I think, was it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
Yeah, we did
But
share
to
that on
your
our
to your
Facebook
question
page.
about the credit cards, I was notified about the credit cards much later. Actually, I received them January, the statements of this year. And as I was going through at least the American Express account, that was just another situation because all of those charges on the American Express account, which of course I have shared some of that on my Facebook, were prior to an individual's appointment as the executor through the fake will, but also they started just days after my mom's death. And it was obviously a very traumatic event. And I was really just having a hard time coping with all of it. And to think that, my mom's card and her account was just charged over and over and over and over again. Um, it was disgusting.
It
It was
is.
totally disgusting.
It's hard enough coping with the loss of a parent, and then to have to deal with this almost immediately afterwards is almost unthinkable. It's I some people I don't think have a soul, you know. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of times where I ask myself during this whole situation how certain people sleep at night because I
right.
know I wouldn't be able to.
So where are we at currently with the case, and are the people in jail, or they've been? I'm sure with if there things are ongoing, there's certain things you can or cannot share, and I appreciate that. But whatever, this is kind of your forum. I know that you
Yeah.
have some frustrations, so
Well, I can tell you that so my mom passed away in February 23. The fake will was submitted in April of 2023. And in the summer, in July of 2023, the notary, who was also a victim here, reported the fake will to the Klamath County Sheriff's Office. So that happened in the summer of 2023. And I didn't know at the time that there wasn't a report written. I think that that was just a genuine misunderstanding, a genuine mistake. It obviously cost a lot of time, right, for investigative purposes. But in January of this year, I met in person, flew across the country, met with two deputies. One of them is now a detective, and just provided all of the evidence that my family and I had ascertained. And obviously I was frustrated that this there was this kind of delay, but at that time I still had faith that the Klamath County Sheriff's Office would investigate this. Right, there's multiple crimes, and the the damage has been just very devastating for our family. And this was not a crime that was committed in some back alley in the middle of the night, right? I
right,
mean, this fake will was submitted into a court of law,
right.
and
We're not talking just
many things
misdemeanors
happened.
at this point. These are felony offenses.
Well, I mean, a notary seal is really important, right? Like we depend on that when we deal with important documents. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's one thing to fake a signature on like a parent's note for a field trip, right? It's another thing to fake a signature on a $2 million will and steal someone's notary seal. That is crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you can get into on that notary thing, but usually, like, it's done in person. So the notary would,
Yeah. Hmm.
come to your. I'll just. I've sold a couple houses, so they come to your house. They have the little piece of paper, the official document. They put the little bond stamp thing on there, and there's IDs exchanged. So do you know, or can you go into how that was faked, or I mean,
Um,
and if you can't, that's fine. I'm just saying there's a lot of process into that whole.
ask it again. Ask it again. I'm sorry.
Just how the notary was faked, or you said that she's a victim too. So did they steal a
Yeah.
page out of her book somehow, or can you divulge any of that?
Yeah. Trying to think what I can say. Uh,
If you can't, that's fine. I can.
Yeah,
I'm.
we're not trying to.
Yeah, yeah, no, 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 it's okay. I'm just, um, well, I I could say that her seal wasn't actually like the stamp itself, that wasn't stolen. And what I can tell you is that she didn't notarize anything in October of 2022. She actually didn't notarize anything in the year of 2022. So clearly, whoever stole her stamp took it, removed it from a document that she had previously notarized, right? It
Oh,
was the
okay.
same way that they were able to steal my mother's signature. I mean, they had to pull it, they being whoever did this, right? Had to pull my mother's signature from the document that they took it. So that is the one question, I had constantly asked the Klamath County Sheriff's Office is how did this woman's notary seal get stolen? Because we know that my mom's signature was actually a signature, right? Like it was a cut and paste of her signature.
Right.
The other signatures involved were not. It was like someone put hand to paper and just like they didn't look like the person's normal signature. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the notary seal was legit. It was a legit. And that's the problem, right? I mean, to use a notary seal is it's so. massive. And there was a point in court where one of the attorneys stood up, and he had been litigating for a long time, and he said, I've seen a decedent's, fake signature. I've seen a notary's, forged, or another witness, but all of them, all four signatures, my mom's, the notaries, the two witnesses, and the seal were all forged.
Wow.
So that is a lot of effort that was made to make that document, and then it was executed, right? It was executed.
Well, for a
So.
$2 million payday, I guess I can understand why some folks would put the effort in. You know what I mean? But
Wow.
still,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, yeah.
not that it justifies it in any
No.
way, shape, or form, but there was a large reward, if you will, for them for the effort that they did, or at least so they thought. And hopefully there's some form of justice to be served, you would hope.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's role is still the investigation is, still ongoing, right? But when I look at any crime, I look at access, means, and motive. And whenever I'm looking at my mother's crime and I ask those three things, it always leads me in the same direction. But, it's not my responsibility or my job to investigate this, right? That was and has been for 15 months now the Klamath County Sheriff's Office responsibility to do. And when I had that meeting in January, like I said, I felt pretty comfortable and confident that we would all be able to move forward and that they would do their job. And then weeks just turned into months, and months just turned into a long freaking time. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. So I reached out to the Oregon State Police and to the Oregon Department of Justice. And, I was very looking forward to, the Oregon State Police would have been willing to assist, but the Klamath County Sheriff's Office would need to see. This is where we got to get into the semantics, right? And I have to be careful what I say here, because I feel like everyone at this point of authority in this situation is all in their corners and kind of pointing the fingers at everybody else. So, like, I know that if the Klamath County Sheriff's Office had reached out to the Oregon State Police and asked for assistance, that the Oregon State Police would have provided assistance. And we know that the Oregon Department of Justice did reach out to the sheriff's office and to the DA's office. And the Department of Justice offered assistance and offered to even take the whole thing over, which was something exciting for my family because it had been so long, but also the credit cards, for example, they were charged in multiple states.
Wow.
Multiple states. And each one of those charges is its own separate crime, right? And so, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for a sheriff's department to do. But they were told that the investigation was in a good place and they didn't need assistance.
So the
I'll leave
sheriff's
it there.
department told the state that their help wasn't needed.
Detective Sergeant Ryan Caber specifically is the one that told the Oregon Department of Justice that assistance
And I
wasn't needed because they're in a good place. That was a direct quote that was relayed to me, that they're in a good place. But what is unfortunate about that is it's October 20th,
20th, yeah.
and there's still been that conversation happened in the summer. So I mean, there's still been no charges, and there's obviously multiple crimes here, and it's been so long. And honestly, what is even worse than that is, the Klamath County Sheriff's Department, even after these two agencies offered to help, have repeatedly told me that the delays were due to staffing issues and high priority crimes, which is understandable, right? I understand that there are different crimes happening, that my crime wasn't a violent crime, right?
Right.
However, you don't get to tell me how busy you are and how understaffed you are when other people offered you assistance twice and you didn't take it. So that excuse goes out the window,
Well, on that
and yet
point,
it's still being cited.
and to your point too, I mean, once you're dealing with a multi-state issue, wouldn't that be? And I'm just the guy behind the camera, like a FBI or a, because anything Oregon State sheriff, police, they're not going to go. I don't know where. They're not going to go to Arizona or even Washington that's joining us to pursue that. That would be a federal
It,
something, right?
I would think so. I don't know. And I did reach out to the sheriff's office before we did this last week, and was told I'd get a call, and I have not yet. So
You haven't gotten a call back.
no, have not.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just, it's totally asinine because initially, we did have we had actually there were several of us that had long conversations because there's so many levels to this investigation, right? But then things just kept happening and just kept getting worse, and I was like, what? And that was a game changer for me when I started to ask myself, what is really going on in Klamath County? What is really the story here with the sheriff's department? Why has this crime been allowed to be so under investigated? And then, whatever the situation is, you would think as a law enforcement officer, especially because at the time that I reached out to the Oregon State Police and the Department of Justice, I had already been public. So, the media attention started to take on with the case. You would think that they would just be like, oh my gosh, get this out of my office. Clearly, there were some issues here, and it's been a really long time for this family, and everyone just wants peace and resolve. And they didn't. And they still have, at any point, today, tomorrow, at any point, the sheriff's office can call the Department of Justice and say, listen, we need some help here, um, whether it's assistance or to transfer the case. But, it's been 15 months
Right.
and there's a lot going on. And they don't, right? Every day that happens, they don't ask. And I get sent to voicemail.
Wow.
So.
And I guess you can get a hold of the DOJ or the Oregon State Police yourself, but they really can't do anything. Sheriff's a powerful position, and unless he requests assistance himself, your phone calls go unheeded, right? They can't really do anything without the sheriff locally requesting that, right?
So yeah, the sheriff has a very powerful position because obviously he's elected, right? And so when you're dealing with a police chief or other law enforcement agencies, everyone kind of has a boss, right? And that's one thing about Sheriff Caber is he will let you know he has no boss. So yeah, it's definitely a power there. And once I started to kind of look into different things that have happened with the sheriff's department, I just kind of saw this narrative and this common denominator factor, and it's just really unfortunate. I didn't want to have this big social media public issue, right? I mean, I've worked, I was a television news reporter. I've worked with law enforcement before. I've been in courtrooms. I've covered, homicides. I've covered cases that are violent and have a lot of layers to them. But the way that I have been treated and my family has been treated is just unacceptable. And the amount of time that has passed and the damage that has occurred during it, it just shouldn't be okay for any resident. I mean, I don't live in Klamath County, right? I'm a victim of a crime that was committed in Klamath County. So are other relatives of my, members of my family. But we have been treated and shunned, and it's now gotten to the point where I'm getting the same thing from the district attorney's office. District Attorney David Scott. The difference between the district attorney's office and the sheriff's department is DA Scott has been in communication with me. We are sticking to emails right now. Obviously, there's a point of contention. But when I first reached out to David Scott, one of the very first things he said to me was that he was sorry not just for my mom's loss, but that I was dealing with all of this. And that still sticks with me all this time later because, as I've said before, I can count exactly who of any authority in Klamath County has shown any type of humanity, empathy, compassion, understanding to me and my family.
Right.
Every time we go into the civil court and they say, estate of Kathy Gerlett, and they say the case number, it just feels like, she's kind of stripped of who she was, a mom, a grandmother, an aunt, a friend, a neighbor. And it just feels like no one cares anything that I have had to go through, and my family members. That just totally gets lost in all of this.
And that's a shame. Again, like I said, losing a parent is a hard enough situation to go through, and then to have to go through all of this and having it drag out, it kind of hinders the healing process, doesn't it?
Well, I never even got to bury my mom for a year until
Wow.
after she passed away. We didn't receive her ashes until the end of 2023, and then we were able to bury her on February 9th of this year. So that was another thing that was stolen too, right? I mean, when you have a family member that passes away within, a week, hopefully you'd be able to meet with your family and friends and have some sort of, funeral or ceremony or whatever it was. And for my mom, she wanted it to be intimate. And that was also robbed of me.
Yeah.
Think about that. I didn't have the chance to bury her for a year.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So where are we at now? Can you share where the case is now and what the future's looking like, or do you have an idea on that yet?
Um,
I
Sorry, I
know
have
there
like
are
the
some
worst
things that
poker
you
face
can't
too. I have like the
disclose.
worst. Yeah, there are things
Yeah.
that I can't disclose. But what I can tell you is this: is that I am not stopping, and my family is not stopping until every single criminal activity that was perpetuated against my mom, my family, is held to account. All of them, not all of them.
Right.
And what I also can say is that I made a statement in front of the Board of Commissions, and they were the first local officials that ever made a public statement on behalf of, or not on behalf, but just um,
Acknowledged it.
recognizing, yeah, acknowledging. And again, when you look at what they said, it was, we pray for justice for your family, and I'm sorry that this is the experience that you're having with Klamath County. And I have been asking for some time now that we all just need to get in a room, the Gerlett family, the district attorney, the sheriff's department. We need to just get in a room and see, okay, what has happened? How do we move forward? What's the next step? But when you ostracize to only an email, and then you'll say, you can ask those questions, and then the questions get dodged or not responded. I mean, they're clearly talking about the case, they're talking about me, but I'm not invited into those conversations. I'm not invited into those rooms. Everyone else is, but I'm not.
Wow.
And I shouldn't be treated that way just because I'm asking. It's 15 months later and we're in the same place. Why is that? Because again, the message that it's sending to me, to everyone in Klamath County and Oregon, is that you can commit these type of crimes and no one in authority is going to care. And in fact, when the victim and the victim's family starts to speak up and say what is going on, you attack her, which is exactly what Sheriff Caber did publicly in his statement to K22. I don't know if you had read that, but it was that I was making allegations and just excuses of delay. I do have to tell you this. As a reporter, I always felt like when somebody said no comment or it's an ongoing investigation, like as a reporter, we always get annoyed with that, right? Like, okay. What I now learned after Sheriff Caber's comment is, what's worse than saying no comment or even ignoring somebody is saying a bad one.
Yeah.
And for him to publicly attack the victim's family, I, I just let his words speak for himself. And by the way, that's his MO. Because as we know, as you know more so than me, the sheriff's department has had a lot of issues in the last several years under the Caber administration. And whenever Chris Caber has some sort of critique or somebody speaks out against him, um, that's kind of what he does. He just plays the victim role, and There's no accountability at all, and it's pretty pathetic in my opinion.
So a total speculatory question or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think you were, or your sorry, your estate or your mom was targeted specifically, or do you think this was just maybe one of many that they are doing? Or
I think the motivating factor here when it comes to the crimes against my mom and our family was the money and the property. I mean, clearly.
So not
And
necessarily.
I actually, and somebody I saw some comments on this on social media. My brother got in the real will. He got a much higher percentage of the estate. He has a special needs fund and all of that. And so for me, it was never about the money because that money is gone and there's a lot of damages that occurred. It was the principle. One of the things that really irritated me is in the fake will, there was this trust fund or fund set up for my mom's dog for $5,000. And yet my nephew, who's about to come on, yo, don't make me laugh.
Sorry.
No, I can't. This is public record. Please look it up yourself. So there was this trust fund, $5,000 for the dog, and it obviously went to other individuals. And I thought to myself, the idea that my mom would set up a fund for her poodle and not her grandson is insulting to who
Right.
she was as a mom and a grandma.
Yeah. Wow.
I sorry to giggle a little bit. It's just you couldn't make that up if you had to. I mean, the truth is so much funnier sometimes, and it's not. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but man, that's yeah, it's a gut punch for sure.
Yeah. The truth is crazier
Well,
than fiction.
yeah, and what's interesting about the date of October 21st, 2022 is I think I had mentioned it before is my mom was living with me in Ohio, right? And she was really tired of borrowing my Jeep. So she was like, next time I'm on the West Coast, I'm bringing my car and I'm driving to Ohio. I was like, that's cool. That weekend that it was alleged that she disinherited me was the same weekend that she went to pick up her car and then drove it across country to Ohio to um to be with me and
To
have it
hang
be
out with the daughter
easier.
that she disinherited.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense.
And then she left a very substantial life insurance policy for me and my brother. Thank God, because if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't have been able to have the resources to fight this and try to bring justice. But that was the other thing I said. I was like, so she would leave this very large life insurance policy and then disinherit. So was that like a severance package? I'm confused how this
Wow.
works. Like, what's the mind process here?
Right. Right.
Oh, and that's the last thing you hope, or that's the last thing you wanted to do was to spend something she left you just to fight for her. But yeah, that's lucky you had it.
My mom was such a strong, fierce. She was one of the toughest ladies I ever knew, and I definitely have my strength and my tenacity and fortitude from her. She played. People think that some of the things that I could say are no. She was very tough and she loved hard and she would fight for people that she would fight for strangers. So I always just knew that this was so much bigger than me. And once I realized truly how much this was just being swept under, I was like, oh no, oh no. Because I have to tell you, I've seen the comments, I know there's that saying, sometimes, but I have seen the comments and I am so thankful for people I've never met, didn't know my family. They have left really nice, kind words. I've received messages, I've received tips from people in Klamath County,
Good.
um, trying to help. I mean, residents, the one thing I wish is I wish there still hasn't been anybody that's been able to come forward and let me know that they went to that estate sale in August of 2023 because, my family and I are really trying to recover those items that were sold at this estate sale, yard sale, that we will most likely never see again.
A
So
lot of
I'm just
items.
hoping that somebody,
It's not about the material value. It's about the sentimental value and the personal
yes,
value that brings to you.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, there was like my grandmother's, you know, did you guys have Christmas villages when you were younger, growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did.
The little Christmas village, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was able to recover a few of those. They were like broken in pieces, but I was able to recover some of them. But there's other pieces of just childhood memories, right? And memories from my mom's childhood that she had, and she said, "Oh, that I remember this." So you're really talking about. You're right. It's not so much the monetary value. In fact, the damages from the estate sale monetarily was probably the least out of all of the things. But those are sentimental items that I wanted, and I wanted my nephew to be able to have those. And so, yeah, if anybody is watching this and they went to that estate sale in August of 2023, please contact me. Please
Where
contact
can you
me.
say where the estate sale was so people would know where if they were there or not?
Um,
And if you can't, that's fine. And we could share that at a later date, even if it frees up where you can share that. We'd be more than happy to get it
yeah,
out there. So
hmm yeah. I'll probably
okay,
we'll
we'll
check
hold off on
check
that
back
for
with
now.
that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, is there anything else, Christy, that you'd like to say or to cover before we wrap this up? I really want this to be a forum for you to get this out and let Klamath Falls know what's going on.
Well, I'm just frustrated that the Klamath County Sheriff's Office continues to maintain that they are investigating these multiple crimes and continues to act as if they have been victimized in all of this, specifically the sheriff, because that's just not true. I think the one thing that everyone kind of looks at is just how much time has been allowed to pass. And again, they cannot say how understaffed they are and how busy they are, because those things might be true, right? But
Sure.
they did not take assistance, they did not transfer the case, and they have never asked for it. So there is no excuse at this time that they can give to anyone. And I also think it's very telling, and I've said this before, that Sheriff Kaber has no problem talking to media, but he's never spoken. I've never met
I
him.
take exception to that. I tried. Although I'm not officially, I guess, the media. I don't have the press credentials in that, but we're doing our best here to share stories that the local media won't. That's our goal. So
Well, I also wanted to, yeah, I wanted to thank you. I mean, when I saw your invite to come on here, that just meant a lot. I really love what you guys are doing. Your studio is awesome.
thank you.
Podcasting is kind of where everything is now, and everything lives on YouTube. And I've seen some of your stories. And um, do you just when do you do the bourbon? Is that on Thursdays? What is that
Yeah,
again?
Kentucky Bourbon Boys. That's a Thursday
Yeah,
release. Yes. So
I actually have a funny story about that. So I was visiting Klamath in the spring, and a couple of family friends were like, "Hey, let's go out." And I was like, "Okay." So they were all drinking Pendleton.
yeah,
Pendleton.
Pendleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Canadian whiskey.
Okay. Yeah, I can't hang. That was like intense. That was intense, guys. I was like, is that what's happening here? So yeah. But
Okay.
anyways, you guys, I really appreciate your guys's reach out, and just thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this story. And I would urge people to continue to, look on Facebook, and just I appreciate the shares and the likes and the comments.
Absolutely, and we appreciate your patience. I know it took a couple of valiant efforts on our part to get this to work the way it is, but you stuck with us, and we appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
So one more, just maybe a hard or can't answer question. Kaber is
Sure.
definitely he's not in reelect or anything like that. There's two candidates. Either one of which should be better than what you're dealing with. Do you have any hope? Do they continue the case? Do you know any of that? Do you have faith for that?
Um, well, I can tell you that one of the candidates has reached out to me. There's multiple leaders in Klamath County that have reached out in the past several months. Um, what I do know is whoever gets elected to this office will be inheriting this mess that was made by the Caber administration, right? And so they could look at it as an opportunity to come in and fix things, or I don't know. I would hope that they continue to push towards justice because I think everybody knows by now I'm not stopping until we get it.
Well, that's good that they've already reached out to you, I guess. So,
One of them did, yes.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, unless you have anything else, I don't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to share your story because it touched me when I saw that on Facebook and what you were going through, and um, it's just wrong.
yep.
So
Yeah.
you
I
and
think you saw the voicemail video. Was that what?
I
I think that's what
I
you
did.
saw.
It was,
Yeah.
yes. Just unreturned call after unreturned call. And the one time it did get an answer, they were busy on a conference call and we're going to get back to you and never did. So, yeah, I just,
Well, at one point they were taking my calls at one point. But I think once things just continued to progress, and I just had a lot of questions. You know, what's getting done? Why wasn't this done? I mean, why is this okay? You
right,
know, and that was one of the things when I was speaking to the BOC about is just kind of the treatment that we have received because I've just been stonewalled here over and over and over again. And I don't think that any county, any environment should be where when you have somebody who's really truly kind of speaking truth to power, that they just get shunned. My mother's case is not a forum for retaliation at all. There needs to be a thorough investigation here. And clearly, if you just do the simple math, there's a lot more questions than answers. I'll tell you that.
right, right. All right. Well, I guess on that note, then we will wish you the best and
Thank you.
would absolutely hope to stay in touch and see this come to fruition, to see some justice done. um,
Hmm.
and for you to have some closure, you and your family.
Yeah.
Um, so um, I plan on staying in touch and following through with what's going on here, and hopefully, in sometime down the road, we can maybe do another one of these with some closure in it, and
Yeah.
it'd
Yeah.
be
That
a
would be
great
really great.
story to share with a happy ending. So I'm hoping for that for you.
Yeah. You know, can I say one more thing? Do you mind?
Absolutely not.
Um,
Go for it.
yeah, I think that this is really important to say is that when you find yourself in a situation where you feel like your voice isn't being heard, or um, it could be intimidating when you're dealing with people of higher authority than you, don't quit. Don't stop. Doesn't matter the delays, doesn't matter the stonewalling. That's what people want. They want you to just kind of disappear in the sunset, and you have to let them know you're not stopping. You're going to continue to fight. There have been some really hard days that I have had to work through because again, we're also dealing with just the loss of my mom and the traumatic event of February 9th. Um, but people are hoping you'll walk away, people are hoping you will break, and it's just really important that you don't. And I'm very lucky because I have, oh, I'm getting emotional. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. Um,
Understandable.
I have a really supportive family, and they're my biggest cheerleaders. And so I have a strong faith. So my point is, I just don't give up. Keep fighting no matter what happens. You keep going.
Eye on the prize, so to speak. Yeah. Well, God
All
bless
right,
you.
guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Kristy, and we wish you well. And hopefully, maybe after the elections, things will progress in a more productive direction for you. So I wish you the
Yeah.
best.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.